Well, hello, and this is Hello Chaos, a podcast for founders really in the thick of it. The messy middle is what we like to call it. The questions, the pressure, the chaos no one puts on LinkedIn. There are no fairy tales here. It's just the real work of what it takes to start and build a business. Today we have on our show Adam Povlitz, and he is the CEO and president of Anago Cleaning Systems. And did I say that right?
Nobody does. It's okay.
Okay, tell me, but I like, and I should have asked this in the green room. I'm so sorry.
It's Anago Cleaning Systems.
Anago.
You're from South Carolina. That you have to.
I always, we got to use the vowels,
It's the
all the vowels.
second. Yeah, Anago.
Well, welcome to the show, Adam. I
Thank you for
appreciate you
having.
being on. Well, okay, so how did this come about? The name, getting it started. What took you to this? On this journey.
Oh man. So the name was not my idea. It was actually my father founded the company, and he worked in the commercial cleaning space, but never franchised or anything like that. He worked with his family and a couple of my uncles. And he ultimately, my grandmother, his mom moved down to Florida, and we're originally from Michigan. And when you
Okay.
see the weather difference, you kind of go, well, maybe we should also
Right. One
explore.
winter, and they're like, "Yeah, I think we need to stay here."
And look, I'm from the Midwest, so I can dish them a little bit, but like the number of gray sky days in Michigan versus Florida, it's just literally night and day. It's always beautiful and blue here. But he was down and decided to go out on his own when we moved down here, and was actually with a buddy who named his company actually in a totally unrelated field, named it Anago. And he was trying, he was coming up with names like, Maintenance King, or like
Right.
the whatever ones. His buddy said Anago, and something just stuck with him. He's like, that's kind of cool. I kind of like
Yeah.
that Anago cleaning, And he tells my grandmother this, and she was an old Greek lady, and she goes, she was shocked. She goes, what? She goes, do you know in in ancient Greek, Anago means blessed by God.
Oh,
And, and he's like, well,
wow.
I can't name it anything else now. So it turns out it doesn't. What's funny, it's close.
You're like, and
That's it.
grandma was wrong.
Yeah. And grandma was a little confused, but it does mean, it has like a mystical underpinning, and it's like means to like guide or uplift. And so we thought, well, like that, that works even
That's right.
better.
Good
We
story.
guide and uplift our franchisees. So
Very
that was
good.
the name. But he founded it in '89. I didn't even join until 2009. So it had already
Wow.
been running
Been
for.
going. So you inherited, you're a second generation
I'm a
owner.
second generation. Yeah.
Wow. So how 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 has that journey been? Because sometimes it's an eye opener of like watching it from as your parents build something and then now you're responsible for it. What what were the feelings going in of, and I would say, like, the myths? Did you have a perception of what it was going to be like, and then you got in there and it was like, what's the difference of what was your perception before and then after you kind of took over that?
So I think that the shock right out of the gate was my background was finance. So I was working at IBM up in New York area, and then to come to Anago, literally my dad goes, your first job is, you're not, I don't want anyone to think like, oh, silver spoon, or you're
Right.
the founder
You need
son.
to go get some
Yeah.
seasoning.
And seasoning, first layer of seasoning. So it's commercial cleaning. I was literally a telemarketer by day, and I was cleaning a daycare at night
Wow.
to like learn. He goes, you have to learn everything. You have to know everything. So to go from, IBM, where it's like white shirt, blue slacks
Right.
every day, to, okay, put on some jeans and go scrub that toilet.
Right. Living the
That's
dream, Adam. You're living the dream.
It was amazing. It was a nightmare. I was working probably like 70 hours a week easily at that point, full day type job, and then cleaning all night. It was
Did
crazy.
you have a choice? Like, is this something when you came out and were like, hey, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to take over the business, or because it was not even a choice for you, or you were like, no, I want to do this. I want to, I mean,
Yeah,
What?
silly me, I chose that fate. I think that was one thing my dad did well was, like, I think a lot of second generation
Mm,
businesses struggle because the son or daughter gets pulled into the business because it's like, that's the logical thing you're supposed to
right,
is move into mom or dad's business versus that's something you want to do.
right.
And I think, I wanted to do it. I was actually so when at IBM, I left in 2000, and they had just done this huge round of layoffs. I wasn't laid off, but I was one of the analysts that gave me employee numbers and comp packages and exit packages. I didn't have
Yeah,
any names on or anything like that. And so I was literally going through helping the team determine who was getting let go during like the big '08
right.
financial crisis.
Yep,
And you go like, man, like I could easily be 20 years into my career at IBM and they hire some 20 something year old kid who's deciding my fate without knowing my name or who I am or my background. And it hit me in the stomach. And I
you have
was like,
no control.
yeah, I didn't like that feeling at all. And I was down over the holidays and he goes, you got to check this Anago thing out. And it was about 6 months later that I was like, all right, let's do it. And then I was like, what did I do?
What was the big thing like, I can do this? And then what was that? What was the moment of shock for you? What was that aha? Like, oh, or the oh shit, I think that's what it would be like. What have I done?
So it wasn't the cleaning, right? I mean, cleaning's, as
Right.
much as it wasn't fun, it wasn't, it's not rocket science. I think when I found out I was a horrible telemarketer, I was like, this is gonna be we had to make a certain number of appointments before we were even allowed to move on to the next phase. Cause it was like
Yeah.
you have to be able to the joke was you have to be able to give good phone. You have to give good phone in order to get the appointments. And then once you were able to do that, you could move into sales and then
Yeah.
move through the plan there, and I was terrible at it. I was always, like, so nervous, and so I don't know why, and then you kind of, someone told me, they're like, "Well, like, you don't nobody knows who you are on the phone, so
Right.
be any persona you want, and who gives a crap if, like, occasionally someone, you stumble on one and someone, is like, hangs up on you because it's like, what's the difference from them disliking you, hanging up with on you versus they thought you were nice, but you're just a telemarketer, so they're hanging up on you, like,
Yeah.
that
So that
was
was,
I was so my I ultimately on accident created an alter ego, and
did you
so
give it a name?
yeah, 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 so I was always calling in saying it's Adam from Anago and da 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 da, and someone misheard me and thought I said Alan Franago. But they let me through, and so
Yeah.
I got through the receptionist to the office manager, and that was like one of my first appointments that I made. And so
Wow.
this was early 2000s, and
Yeah.
so I just pretended I was Alan Franago, and they would be like, "Oh, what are you calling for?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm calling to talk with Bob. It's Alan Franago," and they
Yeah.
would just put me through. And so that and so I was like,
They
I'm as
could
old.
read the confidence in your voice. That's what.
I'm his old buddy Alan,
Yeah.
whatever. And it worked. And so that was who I was on the phone.
Right. So what have been other perceptions of coming into it that you were like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be like?
Well, I think coming from a place like an IBM where like it's such a huge, huge organization and everyone's just sort of expected to do what they need to do. And
Mm,
and your boss tells you what to do and their boss told them what to do, to come to a franchise organization where we can't tell our franchisees beyond like what's in the contract. We can't tell them like how to live their day to day, so to speak. It's very much like, here's our operating roadmap. Here's how we recommend you do things. But if they do it differently or they don't do it quite as, the way we would want, or push hard enough as we would want to, you can't go, well, you're fired and I'm going to get a better, person at sales or whatever. They're business
mm.
owners.
Yeah.
So much of the franchise side that was, I guess, new to me is how much it's like influence building and working with people to build trust and
People.
buy-in. It's so much about buy-in.
Hmm.
um it's making sure someone believes you before they'll just do what you say, versus we're
Right.
an employee, it's like, hey, I need you to sell more or we're gonna hire someone who can. Doesn't work like that in franchising at all. It's
Uh-uh.
very much like, here's why I believe this is going to work. Here's how I've tested it. Here's three other guys that joined in and
Mhm.
believed in me early, and they've proven successful. Will you give it a try? And
Mm.
it's definitely a much longer process on one hand, but it's cool because it is. You're not, it's not just forcing things down people's throat. You actually have to have good ideas, which
Yeah.
the longer term is like great for any business model that you're forced to have, get people's buy-in and test things out to make sure it works before you launch an initiative.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think you're speaking to any brand and business owner of that's the struggle of how do you, build trust as quickly as you can because that's how you close sale. I mean, in anything, in any business, it's how am I gaining that trust in order to move the process, the relationship further? And it is, it's hard to do that
Yeah.
and do it consistently.
Yeah.
Um to kind of win them over. So you're right. That is no matter what category or what industry, I think we're all doing that in some form or fashion. So so in this process, okay, so now you're taking over. It's you're running the show. What have you learned most about yourself? What have you discovered about yourself in this process?
I would say, I think when you're climbing up through the ranks,
Mm.
you learn to do things your way and you get promoted because your way works. And, so you go from, manager to director to VP, and you're sort of like consolidating power around you, so to speak, where it's now more decisions flow through you. More people are going, yeah, the way he did it hit our sales targets or our operational targets or whatever it may be. And then you get to the CEO role and you find out, at least I found out, like 80% of it was letting go of all that decision
Mm.
making power and deliberately pushing the power down and empowering people. And I kind of joke, I say, I've been CEO now since 2018. And I would say the first probably, 2, 3 years of that was like learning how to CEO. I had never done it
Because your
before.
probably style is different than your dad's
Right.
of how do you really uncover, how you need to do it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
He was the perennial entrepreneur where everything was like, a handshake and a hug, and
Mm.
and he was just, a larger than life character, and people believed him. And I was a finance guy, so everything
Right.
for me is like we cross every T, we dot every I, we button
Your
up our.
systems, your process. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you go from trying to imitate what as what a CEO does to going like, okay, but how do I do it?
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, I think there's pros and cons to both approaches. But for me, it was, yeah, it was learning to, so, it was, okay, everything has to be done such and such a way.
Right.
And then the old adage of like, okay, once you're the CEO, or once you're frankly in any role, you go, if someone can do 80% of it the way you would, and not 20%, like hire someone else and let them do it.
Right.
Because if otherwise, you become your own bottleneck. And that was what I did probably initially, is like everything flowed through me.
Hmm.
And then, I think the decisions were good decisions and I think they worked, but it was like we could only grow as fast as I could make decisions and churn stuff out.
Right.
And that became a limiter,
Hmm.
uh, until, maybe the last handful of years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think that's a big lesson learned to, uh, yes, everybody has their own approaches and you can try to mimic it, but you need to find how do you show up more authentically because that's what's going to build trust. How did you go through that process? Did you have a coach? Did you have, like go through, I don't know, different networking groups? Like, how did you uncover, look, this is my style and it's, it is what it is. And I need, this is what's best for how I'm going to lead. Did
Yeah.
you like, it took me a lot and I had to have an outsider, even though I had all the answers, but I needed an outsider to kind of like uh, extract that for me.
I think it was a combination. First, I mean, at first it was like a mini crisis
Hmm.
to some degree, in that coming out of COVID, right? We sort of got bit
Yeah.
by the great resignation bug.
Yeah.
I mean, and Anna, don't get me wrong. I mean, we're We just recently won like a best places to work where the average tenure here was at the time was like 12 years.
Yeah.
We just celebrated a guy's 30th anniversary here, and that's like the third or fourth one we've done.
Mm.
And so to have people leave, we're like, what do you even
Yeah.
do here? Like, it doesn't happen often. And I want to say I think it was 2021. We had two or three people in a department in our marketing department leave like all but simultaneously, like within like
Wow.
to the point where like myself and my one of my SVPs of marketing were basically like writing the email copy ourselves again.
Oh,
And I go, I will never get caught this flat-footed again.
yeah.
And I mean, I was kind of searching for answers, and I happen to be on the board of my church, and they're
Mm.
one of like I think they're always like top 10 fastest growing churches in the country, and they were growing like crazy. And I went to the pastor and I said, you're growing, you guys are growing so
Right.
fast, and you keep having to hire, new people
Mm.
and onboarding,
Like,
you
how
know,
are you doing it?
yeah. And I go, "Now, don't get me wrong, you're saving souls, I'm cleaning toilets, so maybe there's a mission thing here that helps you recruit, better people. But what are you doing?" And he suggested a book to me called WHO, not World Health Organization, right?
Right.
But it was called Who. It's by an author named Jeff Smart. I don't get any plugs or anything from him
Right.
or anything like that. But he suggested the book. Shame on me. I put it in my Amazon cart and I left it there for like 3, 4 months.
Hmm.
And then finally I was like, all right, I need to make the time and read that. And I read it and it was like, whoa. Like so the whole book is about, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Who Not How,
Yeah.
which is a book about like, putting the right people in the right seat and
Right. It's
not.
good to great, all that. Patrick Lencioni, they all kind of have those same themes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What it does is it gave like a framework for hiring. Like, how do I hire an IT director? How do
Mm.
I hire a VP or whatever of marketing? How do I hire whatever? And you
Right.
could do any job. You read the book, and it was right when literally when iPhones came out with that thing where like you could take the picture of it and it would extract the text off the page. And so it was so I'm like I read a page and I was like, oh, that's good. That's good too. Like snapping pictures through it. And so long story short, I read the book and I'm like, whoa, like I've been hiring all wrong
Hmm.
for my entire career. It's always been like you meet someone and you chat and you
Yeah.
that feel and you go, okay, yeah, I like him or I like her. And you just kind of pull the trigger. This is a much longer process, but by incorporating it, I've probably personally hired a chief strategy officer, chief operating officer, chief marketing officer, VP of marketing, IT director. So I hired, man, like probably 9 or 10 mid to senior level executives pretty rapidly over like the maybe a 3, 4 year period there. And by doing so, and then empowered them, and I said, okay, who do you need on your team? What do you need? What are the
Right.
roles you need to have covered? I mean, we've probably hired, at least 15 or 20 people in the last 4 years
Wow.
in various departments. And that so what that kind of stemmed from is joined during COVID. I joined. It's called YPO, Young Presidents
Very,
Organization.
yeah.
They have it's called a forum construct, and
Mm.
there's a lot of stuff where you can do with the chapter, and there's networking and all that.
Right.
Forum construct, you're basically in a room with 6 to 10 people that you're basically told like, listen, you give what you get, and if you want to learn something about yourself, you have to get really open and really raw with people that are all in kind of similar life positions as you are in terms of business and everything like that. And you do it, and you start finding out where all your blind spots are, and you start
Right.
finding out all the things you can do.
Humbling.
Yeah, humbling, eye-opening. It's a
Right.
phenomenal organization. I'm still a YPO member today, but one of the things that I picked up was, have you heard of the Eisenhower Matrix?
No.
So think of it
Intrigued.
like an XY matrix, okay?
Yeah.
Like it's still
Like a
XY.
2 by 2. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you have on one end of the chart, you have things that are urgent,
Mm.
and that goes this way, and on
Oh.
this way, and the up and down, you have things that are important.
Right.
right? And so you have your not urgent, not important, which is like scrolling on, Instagram or
Right.
something like that. And you have your like very urgent, very important, your kids' school calls and you got to go. You got to go pick them up. They're sick, whatever. Um, and then you have the urgent but not important, right? A ringing
Right.
phone. I got to answer it. I have a meeting that, yeah, it's not that big of a deal, but I got to sit through it. The most common quadrant of the little
Right.
thing that people miss is the quadrant where it's important but not urgent.
Mm.
That is, to me, that is where all of the money gets made.
Yep.
That where all of the important things get done. And so sitting down and you go, can I handle the marketing myself? Yes. Would it be more valuable for me to sit down, go through the interview process over multiple months, read, 50 resumes and hire a chief marketing officer to ultimately do it for me?
That
Where
owns it. Yeah.
where am I going to be better off? Obviously the latter, but which one's more difficult and painful to get through?
Mhm.
Also, obviously the latter.
Right.
So I tend to focus now all of my time as much as I can, and we all get sucked down the rabbit hole,
Mhm.
right? Because once you have you got to pick up your kid from school, you got to be on this meeting, and then you're so
Right.
exhausted by the end of the day. It's like, I just want to watch this new Netflix show and I'm done for the day. Very hard to just try to focus on that,
Yep.
the quadrant of important but not urgent. But that's where I force myself to spend the time, and it doesn't come up naturally. I schedule it. I literally have
That's
time
right.
block on my calendar. Like, I'll say it to, and people know I won't take. You can't get a meeting with me before 10 a.m.
Right.
Before 10 a.m., I am doing stuff where I have to figure out, what am I doing to really advance this organization?
Mm.
What are the big, heavy, boulders that I need to move before then? Yes, I have to go to my normal meeting cadence and I have,
Right.
go with you know, do it to networking events. And yeah, I have to pick up my kids from school sometimes and all that, all life happens. But that was my biggest, like, full mental shift is
Mm.
like, this is where the money gets made is
That's
is
right. Where do you
important.
need to focus? Yeah. And it's like, so we talked to a lot of founders, and I've adopted some of those habits over time. Of I'd never heard of the Eisen that was called the, but I know about the 2 by 2 matrix of kind of those quadrants. And it really, when you start mapping stuff out, you're like, I can delegate these things very easily. But these are the things I shouldn't delegate. I need to more coach, manage, play oversight,
Yeah,
and these are the things that I really need to own to move the business forward, because it doesn't make sense either strategically but also financially, of as in long term, right? It might save money today, but it's gonna stop our acceleration
yeah,
from moving forward. We hear this was a founder, I think, came on the show like 3 years ago, and he just talked about he coaches on time blocking strategy of once you kind of figure out, where the things that you own, how to then you manage your day to then strategically time block, whether it's you can push it out for a year. I mean, we're doing it as a team right now of like, how do we time block our roles and really make some of our time very sacred, right? These are the things like client meetings can only, like for me, I'm only going to take client calls or sales calls during this, like these windows. These days are for these things. Or I even kind of do it like, this stuff drains me. I know I need to do it because it's what my role is, but it really just, so I need to time block other, like a moment for creative, I call it creative energy reflection. Like I needed to go take a walk, or I just need to go take some time. This was like, don't put me back to back on things that drain. So
yeah,
really kind of, and then prioritizing the important, like the family time and, kid time, of those things are, really sacred. And we try to work through that as a team as well, not just as a founder. And it really does, it's eye opening of like, one, the biggest, when I did that, I don't know if you, when you kind of look at your schedule, there was a lot more time than I thought I would. Like I thought, there's no way I can get to all this, I can't dedicate these time. And then when I started, I'm like, oh, I do have more freedom, more pockets, and the flexibility of making choices of when emergencies come up, but to be able to communicate that with the team was really that was an aha for me.
Yeah.
Uh,
When I was at IBM, it was all about. So this is again, 15 years ago now, or wow, 17 years ago. It was the phrase was work life balance. At IBM though, they were talking about work life integration. And
yeah,
at the time, I'm 20 something years old. I'm like, oh, work life integration is nonsense. It just means you don't have balance and da da da. As CEO, there is no work life balance. It
right.
is work life integration. And
It
so
is. Yeah,
if I'm not a morning person, but
right.
I force myself up early. I do some exercise. Sometimes I'm not even into the office until 9:30, 10 o'clock. I read some articles I needed to read. I'm
R-
learning about I'm down the rabbit hole on AI stuff, and I'm focused on that. And if I have to leave early because my daughter is in a play or something like that, I'm gonna leave early. Or if and it just is what it is. And then if I have to do a little work at 9 o'clock at night because I left early to go to the play,
Right.
then that's what I do. And it's just
I call it manage. It's like you're managing it's not work life balance. It's managing the imbalance.
yeah,
Because it
yeah.
is, but it's completely integration. So it's interesting. You talk about the aha of the book. I'm gonna have to look it up. I've never heard that book, and I'm surprised because I feel like you know I'm a I'm a reader, so definitely I will check that out. Because one of the things that we hear most from founders is as they start scaling, you talked about bottleneck, and even as you scale, it's like new level, new devil, right? Um, and then sometimes when you get to that new level, you become a bottleneck again, but for other things than you were before. Other than using the Eisenhower, what do you go through to delegate?
So I am a recovering micromanager. I'm very particular in how I like things. I'm very particular in how things should be organized. Um, we she's probably 4 years ago ish migrated. We use a software here called Trello.
Yeah,
Everyone
yeah.
has some sort of like Trello, Monday.com, whatever, ClickUp, I think is another, whatever. We ended up settling on Trello. What worked for me, it took a while, and everyone frankly hated my guts for this for a little while because I forced the issue on Trello. And then we have like a standard template on how we do everything. But it was very much like, I'm going to ask my COO to handle something, right? And I'm like the follow up, drill sergeant where it's like I flag it, I know what I need to follow up on, when I need to follow up on it, and I send him something and I'll say, "Can you Trello this? Can you add it on your to-do list if it's something I'm asking him to do?" And then everything on that we use, it's sort of a combination of EOS and OKR.
Yeah.
So entrepreneurial operating system and then objective key result. And so every card by default, we had them program it so where
Mm,
if you create a new Trello card, a new to-do item,
right.
it has who owns it, when is it due by, why is it important? I added them
Mm,
at it because I want people to understand why we're doing it, not just what we're doing. And then you have to list out key milestones, who the owner of the milestone is, and when it's due.
mm,
And I know it sounds really onerous, but for someone, I mean, I could get hit by a proverbial bus tomorrow, and someone could sit in my spot and know exactly what every single major person on my team is up to and where they're at in the process of that particular project immediately. There's an old janitor joke that said we were too busy mopping the floors to turn off the faucets. And I always say, listen, you can't be too busy, building the skyscraper to go back and look at the blueprints. And so we've made it a point to prioritize organizational time here and make it something where it's like you have to get organized, you have to spend the time mapping out what the plan is. Otherwise everyone's just sort of winging it. And so if I can have everyone make the structure and follow the structure, it's very easy for me to let go so that anytime, whether it's a week from now or a month from now, I can look at it and go, where are we at? Are we on track? Are we off track? Do you need my help or do you have it?
wow. So that's all in your. So is that new in your system? Like, is that in
That's,
the
yeah,
last couple of years, or are you guys still working through that? Because
there's
we're
it.
what you're talking about is something we're trying to map out for our business of we've been using kind of manual systems, but now we need to, and some automation, but we need to fully automate our workflows. So yeah, that's what like, but having the, as Chandler was like listening to you going, we need to add some of those questions to our project list of like the milestone, but also the who's the owner,
Yeah.
who's going to be accountable.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could do it in, in a big Excel sheet if you really wanted to.
Well, that's what we operate now. Yeah. Yeah.
Just found Trello was an easier vehicle because they lay it out on little cards, and then you
Yeah.
could cards in like a project column, and so it just for me when and then you get to where we're dealing with, where like every department has a board, and every and just it allows you to scale out
Hmm.
really big that a spreadsheet didn't allow us to do.
Yeah.
But the big thing is like who owns it, and and what are the big milestones, and when are they going to be done?
Yeah.
Because then it's very easy. The EOS basically says, think about the classic, C-suite meeting when everyone goes around the room and everyone sort of is
Right. It's your
bragging about,
L10, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
L10. And our meetings, literally, I do an executive meeting. I hate meetings for the sake of meetings. I do an
Okay.
executive meeting once a month. It's
Mhm.
about an hour, and that's all we need to do. And yeah, we
Right.
touch base with each other and ask questions throughout the month. But it's,
But this
hey,
is just like the gut check of like,
yeah,
are we on track?
yeah,
Big milestones of like, have we moved that rock?
yeah. You said you were gonna sell X by the end of Q1. Are we on track? And there's 3 statuses, that's it. Are we on track to do that? Are we off track and it's recoverable? Or it's off track and you need my help? And then you use essentially, then no one goes through and brags. It's, "Yeah, 3 out of my 4 are on track, and the end. And then my 1 out of 4 is off track. I need you guys' help. Let's use the collective brain power of the entire C-suite
Right.
to figure out a solution to fix it." And that's what all the time is spent on, is just the stuff that's off track.
Yeah. So it's like you've come in and taken this, this legacy business and really put in more, I call it sophistication and modernizing the operations for scalability even further. Is that a
Yeah,
good
I
way of
mean,
saying
yeah,
that? Like,
it was very much a family business,
right.
and I would say COVID was one of those, was when that mental there, for me, it's literally like 50 little, like, it's like, what was that aha moment? I didn't have one, I had like 50. Um, but it was little aha, 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 aha.
Yeah.
Um, it
The
COVID.
hiring one for me, yeah, we had to redo our whole hiring process because after COVID, I think it changed people, honestly. And so, yeah, we had to create a whole nother process. We had to ask all different questions. We needed to define who we were as a company and a brand. And I know we were not alone. I mean, I hear stories like yours all the time. And I'm sure you did too of we're not alone. It's just now how do we adapt to
Yeah,
the
yeah. I mean, we went from, full in office business casual to now, I mean, I'm as dressy as it gets. I'm wearing like a dry fit polo and Lululemon pants and
there you
like, and, and we're hybrid. I mean, I even work from home usually 2 days a week
yeah.
myself. And it's just adapting to how people want to work. I'm big on like, there has to be in office days. We have
Mhm.
mandatory in office days where we have events. You have to keep the culture together, but you
Yeah.
can't. But it's also, I mean, it's also nice on days where you're like, I have some heavy stuff I got to do. I'm going to do it on the day where I know no one can pop in and interrupt me. Or hey, it's nice at lunch that I need to shoot over to the grocery store and grab something,
Yeah, having
and
that freedom and flexibility.
yeah.
Yeah. So what's been the most rewarding part taking over?
Um, Man, uh, it's hard to say just one thing. I would just say, I mean, it's just exciting to see how it's been, how it's evolved. When I got to Anago, my dad was like I said, was the serial entrepreneur. So it was very
Right.
much like slap a logo on it and you're Anago too. And to now see that, we have this uniform branding and presentation, and how we approach things are, much more strategic. It's cool to see that elevation of everything.
Hmm.
It has been rewarding, frankly, for me to just being better at honoring my time. And so now, instead of, okay, I get to the office right at, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and now it's frankly, if it was a lot of years where it was like 7:30 at night
Right.
and I'm finally, I'm getting a text from my wife, like, what are you doing?
Are you coming home for dinner?
Um, and don't get me wrong, I have days that
That's
I'm
right.
better
We
at,
all do.
but being able to say, like, I literally, my wife just put a note in the calendar for tomorrow morning that I guess my daughter is singing the lead in chapel at her school tomorrow. And I was like, okay, we're going to rearrange some things. We'll be there. Wish I had more notice, but we'll be there.
That's
Let's
right.
do it. And so it's exciting to be able to grow at the clip we're growing at and be able to do everything we're doing, but also not have to be the only one
Mm,
that's pushing.
that's right. Not you have other people pushing rocks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's nice. Well, let me ask you, if I gave you a magic wand just to change two things about your business today, what two things would you change?
Two things. First, I would say I would change perception.
Hmm.
So I don't work in a business that has high perception, right? So if you go to a restaurant, you can have one of three experiences, right? You have a delightful experience, good food, good waiter. You have kind of a whatever
Yeah.
experience.
Maybe I won't go back. It was all right. You
Yeah,
know
it
how
was
it is.
whatever, or you have a bad experience, right? Like, oh,
Right.
the waiter was a jerk, the food was cold, we're, 1 star. I don't have 3 levels of experience in my business.
Hmm.
I have two. Nobody comes into their office and goes, oh my goodness, this office is so clean. I'm going to get my janitor a birthday present. It doesn't happen. Either you get to the office and you're like, well, I got to work, and you don't think about it. Or you get to the office and you go, why is this trash can full? Why is the
Right.
bathroom still kind of smell funky? So we don't have the appreciation
Hmm.
that a restaurant could have. We don't have the appreciation that, like, I don't know, like a childhood education or like a dog
Right.
franchise has. We don't have that, like, oh, thank you for doing this service for
Right.
us.
And also, it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind because you guys are coming in after hours. So it's not
Like,
like people are seeing the sweat equity
yeah,
that's been
exactly.
put in. Yeah.
So that would be the biggest one I would change, is
Mm.
perception. Is if people saw, like, wait a minute, like, we're a partner in your health. If there's whole stats that come out, and I can't recite them off the top of my head, but, like, if you don't have a quality cleaning company come into your office, the sick days at your office go up exponentially.
Mm.
People, how customers perceive you, your service is very much related to how clean your building or your office or your whatever is. Because if you
Yeah.
come in and you go, man, these guys are pig pen here, how
Right.
are they going to manage my insert service here? You know,
Right.
you go, that place is kind of gross. So I wish there was that. I wish there was that
Mm.
partnership view. And there was during COVID. I mean, I will say, we
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
from commercial cleaning to, like, disinfection experts,
Mm.
literally had to create a whole like scientifically vetted out program, including, marketing materials, operational
Right.
stuff, sourcing hardware from Asia during COVID,
Right.
spray things to disinfect, all of that. I mean, like, we did it in 8 weeks,
Yeah.
and we were the heroes back then. And now it's 2026 and people are forgetting to wash their hands again. And,
I know.
come
Yeah.
on.
I'm feeling you. So if you summed up your journey in one word, what would that word be?
You warned me about this. I've been fooling in the back of my head. I don't know if I don't want to call this a reflection on me, but just my experience.
Hmm.
I think the one word would be exponential. And I
Oh,
want you to think of, like, an exponential curve where it's just sort of flat,
yeah.
flat, flat, and then it just shoots up. I feel like, vast majority of my early career, I've been at Anago now going on 17 years.
Yeah.
I would say the vast majority, the first decade for sure, and the vast majority of my career was like incremental. We're
Learning.
moving along, we're
Yeah.
improving, and then I would say from COVID forward, it's gone full hockey stick. It just gone. How we think, how we operate has gone up on an exponential curve, and so now it's just like, okay, how high does this thing go?
Right, right. And from what I'm hearing, those kind of acceleration points or that shift was your YP influence implementing EOS, having the Trello process and system kind of in place, kind of base. We always say like systems and processes will win a business, will accelerate a business, but it's also having the discipline and the routine that you got to stick to it, right? System isn't a system unless you actually
Yeah.
hold people accountable for it.
With everything that's coming out with AI, you've probably heard the whole thing where it's like AI's got to come from the top. The CEO has to
Right,
embrace it, and otherwise, otherwise it won't work. And
right,
why do you think that is? It's because most people on the front line or in the middle management,
mm,
frankly, they just want to do their job and go home.
right,
And so if you're not pushing AI, no one else is going to take the time to go learn it. Now
right.
take that to any process. You think anybody in my company gave a crap about Trello or cared about
They're
like, hey,
like, "What's a Kanban and what's a," like, "What is that?"
Kanban, that sounds like you got rid of all the, switch to bottle beers, like what is
Right.
like, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, and so you go, all of these things. Hey, now not only we're gonna do Trello, but we're gonna force you to do the EOS method on it.
Mm,
And like, oh, great. And it's a lot of times, oh, great. Adam had another idea that he's going to,
right.
and yeah, but every single one of, and that's why I love the Eisenhower Matrix.
Mm,
If I think back, every single one of those items that was the paradigm shifter
yeah.
was someone, and usually for the longest time, me, going, this is not urgent. Everything will run fine without this, but I think it's important and we have to do it. And I'm forcing the issue
Mm,
and making sure everybody gets on board with it. And sometimes it takes, months, sometimes it takes years. But to me, that's when all of a sudden those big explosions kept happening. And you go, okay, wait a minute. There's some degree of science to this, even if it's totally imperfect. How do we find another one of those?
yeah. Yeah. So, before I ask my next question, I'm like, what is your dad? Is your dad still around, and how is he reflecting on the change in the business?
So, he was always involved for the longest time. He actually passed in 2023.
I'm so sorry. I'm sure he'd be super proud of, like, where you are.
He was thrilled even up to that point because he was he had the title of CEO up until 2018, but he wasn't working in the business probably since like 2014-ish. But he
Yeah.
was coming to the office every day, and I said he would rustle papers and ruffle feathers. But by the end there, he was coming in, um, you know, 2, 3 hours last few years, 2, 3 hours. He'd come in, stroll in for lunch,
Right.
right around
Because to
lunchtime.
him, it was the people.
It
It
was
was.
oh yeah, it was always about the people, and he would take a lap, go say hi to everybody. How
Mm,
was your weekend? How was your son? How was your daughter? How's your? It was just about the relationships. This got to be it became his hobby.
mm,
He didn't have to work anymore. He came to the office because he just wanted to chat with everybody
right. It was
and
his family.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was very cool for him to see that. I wish obviously he could have seen a little bit more,
Yeah.
but
He's watching.
yeah, I don't doubt it.
So if you look ahead to the next chapter in your journey, what word do you want to describe that chapter?
Man, that was one I was struggling with still. I'll be a little cheesy here, and I'll say dream catcher. Um, I'm
Nice.
trying to. You're limiting me one word, so I think I had to hyphenate to make that happen. I like the idea now of, and I do this regularly, like deliberately scheduling time for, I don't know about you, but like my best ideas come to me either while I'm driving or if I'm in
Oh
the
yeah.
shower or like,
I have to have like a creative, just like downtime of, and that's what I block it out of. Sometimes, or if you're feeling so overwhelmed, like, you know what, I just need to take a minute and
yeah,
just do something. And you're right. That's when the best like reflection moments, the best creative ideas, and it's like, oh, the dot connecting of, oh my God. Yeah. Always.
mine,
Always.
and mine's always when I don't have a pen. So I'll be at the gym and I'm like, oh, that's a great one. But I'm making it a point and I regularly make it a point where, usually I'll have my phone or something. I'll jot
Right.
a note in my phone.
Oh, I
Um,
use my notes on my phone app like it's full.
Sorry, you must delete a note before you can add another.
Yeah, I'm almost at that point.
But I deliberately make time to go, especially with AI. I love, it'll be like, what if we did this? I'll
Right.
be in the shower and I'll be like, what if we did this? And I'll literally, sometimes I'll shout out to my wife, babe, write this down. She's like, you're an idiot. Yeah, but I'll literally take all those things and I'll type it into, to Google, into like an AI thing. Like, how would this work? How could we work this?
Right.
And it's just deliberately taking time to dream and taking all those little, like that back of the head whisper that you hear.
Yeah.
So what if we do this? And actually go down the rabbit hole on a few of those. So what
Right.
would happen if we did that? I feel like that's the exciting part for me now is constantly, I don't have to be as much in the operational side.
Right. Now you
And
can
so
think
my role
bigger.
really is like where, I need to be thinking about where do I want to be in 5 years? And
Right.
that's hard when when you're like, well, we have a CRM that we're beta testing right now. We haven't even rolled it out, but like, where do you want it to be in 5 years? And it's like, working.
Work.
Um, and you go, no, okay, wait a minute. Okay, let's think, let's pause and go, okay, but
Yeah.
really, where do you want it to be? And then frankly, again, then saying, okay, of the 10 things, I dreamt up, three of them are viable and one of them I'm going to force the issue on and we're doing it. So going, dream catching. I don't know what you would call that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love asking the question because we get a different answer from everybody. So I love listening to the stories. So, what best piece of advice, either that you've learned from sitting in the seat, or advice that you have been given through the YP in EOS, influencers, but if you tell our listeners of like, hey, this is the best. I wish somebody would have told me this.
Man, that's a good one. This would be my long pause. I would say it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where I think there's a massive difference between delegation
Mm.
and then just abdication, right? I don't want to just be like, hey, this is your problem. If I'm going to delegate, I need to give it to a person and make sure they're doing it and doing it with intent.
Right.
But how would I say, like, consolidating power and doing it your way will only get you so far, and then letting go and empowering is the only thing that will get you farther.
Yeah.
I wish someone would have told me that, because I like I said, recovering micromanager. I don't think I did that until COVID-ish.
Oh,
So 12 years of being at Anago, and all of a sudden it was like, okay, I remember, I mean, God, COVID. I was I was working we had just bought a new house and the world closed. And so I was like doing renovations at the house, and I'm living with my mother-in-law, my wife, and my then 18-month-old. And I was very much like, I got to get out of here. The office was closed, but I was like, well, I was like, I'll go by myself to the office, and
right.
I'm going to the office. And you're working. I was getting there at 9 o'clock. I would getting home at 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
Usually like a beer or like maybe a martini to wind the night down, and then rinse and repeat. And you go, I can't do all this anymore at that pace.
Right.
I'm
Right.
Everything flows through me. I wish someone would have told me 10, 12 years ago, like, bring on smart people smarter than you, empower them to do what they do, and get out of the way.
Right. Yeah. And it's and I had the opposite of, because you hear that, and I had to protect myself. It's like I was hiring really smart people and I got out of the way. But what I realized is I didn't delegate and didn't put the guardrails in place to protect the company, to protect client. Like I delegated without structure.
That's what
That
I call
was
abdicate. I forgot what that I stole that from a book.
Yeah, I need to let yeah, and that was that after COVID, it was like it hit, our hardest year was we got through COVID, it was 21 or 2022 was our, like, we turned over almost all our staff, like half our staff. It was, yeah, you put people in the wrong seats and you think and then somebody kind of put me saying like, you don't really have problem delegating, but what you did was delegate without having a system in place to protect anything. And you were making assumption that those smart people knew what those guardrails were or knew how to create the guardrails, because some of
Yeah.
them were hired as like operations, VPs and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I didn't, even though I had this top vision, I didn't create the box that they
Yeah.
needed to play in.
Yeah.
And that was a real hard lesson and a very expensive lesson. And yeah, and so we started using a lot of we're not in EOS, but we started using a lot of the same structure, a lot of the same language, and kind of built I called it our own operating system, infusing a lot of the same teachings of EOS, but I call it, the agency name is called Bright. And so we call it the Bright operating system versus the entrepreneur operating system.
Nice.
Made our own.
Yeah, mine is a hybrid. I'd sort of do it. I transparently, I read about half of Traction, and I like Cliff's noted the other half of
You
it.
were doing the phone thing.
Yeah, and so I was like, I like this. I like this.
Right.
This it just doesn't mentally mesh with how my brain works.
We did the
And
same thing.
and and then I read what was the one by what the heck's his name from Intel, Andrew Grove. He wrote I forget what the name of the book was off the top of my head, but he was OKRs. That was his
That was
whole.
his. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, I like that too. And so I
Right.
kind of mashed them together, and then I found a software that seemed to, I
That
was like,
worked.
okay, nah.
Yeah, I
And it
think
just
that's like the traction, and we use kind of that working genius with kind of how those mesh, but also as a so I own Orange Web, which is the media company, but the other is a marketing agency. So we would sit in the L10s for some of our clients, like we're the fractional kind of CMO outsourced kind of marketing department. Watching some of these businesses, it's like what was missing was the infusion of the brand. And I think that's what you're talking about, of like, it's the hybrid of, this isn't going to work with our culture. This isn't going to work. Like, these pieces and parts work really well to build systems. And so that's what kind of how we looked at it and said, these things operationally, or philosophically work or don't. But we felt like what was missing out of kind of just the flat EOS was, our brand is all about curiosity. Our brand is about flexibility, and so we have to have both systems and processes, but then tools that allow for that nimbleness.
yeah.
And so yeah, that's kind of how we kind of looked at it.
Yeah, we're doing a lot.
Regardless, you need the box, you need
Yeah.
the structure, you need the system.
We're doing a lot, I think I would say, in that same vein, where it's about like, how do you incentivize people to take intelligent risks and to say, okay, and so it turns into like you get what you incentivize. So it's like
Right.
every meeting we talk about, on our monthly meeting, we say like, okay, what are the dreams? What are the crazy ideas out there that
Mm,
you've heard about? And there's awards for like craziest ideas that worked.
right.
And you have to do stuff like that. And then you force the issue. I'm right now with the AI stuff. I'm forcing the issue with
Mm,
everybody. And I met with my CMO and COO, and I said, okay, we found a bunch of newsletters that
mm,
say, here's another AI, and there's right now the AI stuff is like the .com boom, right? There's going to be
right.
100, the .com was 100 websites came out, and like 5 of them actually survived.
Right.
That's AI right now.
Yeah.
But we said, we actually have, as part of something that our teams must do, is, say I think there's 4 or 5 people in marketing right now.
Right.
I think every 2 or 3 weeks in one of their meetings, they looked at, they got a whole list of AI software. They have to volunteer or be voluntold to select one of those,
And test it.
go test it, do some research, and present it to the group, and say like, and then at the end say, and is this viable? Is this something we could
Right.
use, and why or why not? And so now it's just part of the rhythm. Two AIs get tested every month by marketing, two
Yeah.
get tested by operations, and
That's
it's like, let's
fantastic.
just see if there's anything out there that we can use. And maybe,
Yeah.
90% of them are junk, but like now I
They
want,
will be.
it will be. But I want, whenever the AI stuff turns from the .com boom to like, here are the ones that are gonna, be the big
Yeah.
player.
And new ones pop up all the time. I mean,
Right.
that it's interesting. Over the last couple of years, I think we have tested well over 200, 250 tools. I mean, it's, well, also as an, as an agency owner, it was, oh, how do we become more efficient as we were struggling with like hiring? Can I replace, do I need people for all of this or some of the tools? And it's like the things that were, here's the best tools that were just so clunky 2 or 3 years ago, they're obsolete now. Like
Yep.
all their have come in or they've been replaced of, we used to use 5 tools. Well, now we use one tool that does all the 5 things. So it's just, but you got to keep testing and what's working because something's going to come up.
Yeah.
It's always going to be, it's going to be an improvement. And I think that's where some of the more mature ones are now struggling with, okay, now they want to jack up the rates, but they know if they do that, they're going to have a high abandonment to go. There's choices. So Adam, my last question for you before we go, like, okay, so if we celebrate a year from now, next, summer, what win are we celebrating? We're having a martini. What do we do?
Man, I would say we have fully migrated to the new CRM that we've been in development on for way longer than I'm willing to
I'm
publicly
with you.
admit.
I'm with you. We've tested. Chandler's gonna be like, "Good God, if we have to talk about CRM anymore here
And
in our agency, it's
we're
painful."
so here's where I'll admit, right? We were on a software when I started Anago called Telemagic. This is 2009. It was based on DOS.
Oh my gosh.
In
Yeah.
2009, it was based in DOS. We didn't even move to like a web-based CRM until it was probably 2012 or 2013.
Eh,
And we're still on that software from like 2013. Yeah, it's had some updates to it,
right.
but it is not remote. I mean, it does a lot. And that was what ended up being the most expensive and time consuming thing, is like just to get this new software to do everything that
That
one
that one.
did is a lot of programming. But then all the streamlining and integration
Mm,
and making everything work from your phone and
right.
moving all of that, then so it's like do everything it used to do plus do everything like this
You need it to do tomorrow's decisions,
and
right?
tomorrow's decisions, and then you have all your franchisees saying, and can you make it do this?
You're
And
like,
you,
maybe, yeah,
but, and eventually you get to a point where you finally literally are telling people like, we're getting to version 1.0. This is like
right.
iPhone 1. This isn't, you're not, it's gonna get there, but we just
We'll get there, but let's just get the thing out. Yeah,
I think once we're migrated to that and everyone's on it, like that again brings me
that's
back
a
to
big
the word
win.
exponential, because
Yeah.
then it really zooms from there. Once everyone's there and all the data is there
Mm.
and what we can pull out of that and make decisions with from all of that is going to be just awesome.
Well, good. Well, I can't wait. We'll manifest it for
Yeah.
you. Put it
Hey,
out there in the universe. Well, Adam, I've enjoyed this. This has been great chatting with you. Now, before we go, where can people learn more about you, your company? How can they support you?
so our website is anagocleaning.com, ANAGO cleaning.com. And then we're on every social media. So it's at Anago Cleaning. And then I'm really active on LinkedIn, like weirdly active on LinkedIn. So if you just type in Adam Povlitz on LinkedIn and you find me and shoot me a note, I will be sure to message you back.
Thank you so much. This has been great. I learned so much. I love having conversations like this. But that's a wrap on today's chaos. But the work doesn't stop here. If this episode felt familiar, you're not alone. Subscribe and share. Leave us a review on Spotify. It helps more founders to find their way through the noise and the clutter out there. And if you're craving clarity, not more chaos, our sponsor Bright Marketing offers a founder clarity sprint designed to help you get unstuck, focused, and moving forward with confidence. You can explore that and more founder tools and resources and more episodes over at orangewhip.com. That's orangewip.com. Or shoot an email to hello@orangewhip.com. Until next time, stay curious and remember that we are all a whip, a work in progress. I'll see you again next week.